Bit of a surprising turn of events, I should say. I mean, both you and I have spoken to Mr. Ermotti over the years. It is somewhat surprising that he decided to come back, given that some people are saying this is a bit of a hospital pass because he's going to be overseeing the integration of these two massive units that have for so long been rivals. What do you think the motivation was?
I think that this has been carefully orchestrated by the figures in the background who perhaps had questions about Ralph Hamers' ability to execute. And I thought the press conference was remarkably gracious. I think the three of them spoke and they gave each other appropriate respect. But there were a few giveaways in the comments that were made in the opening. And I think there were a few giveaways in the Q&A. And I think the giveaways largely came from Ralph Hamers, who talked about being willing to respect the board's decision and to move to one side here. And Colm Kelleher talked about Ralph Hamers being there for an interim period, which all of which suggests that this was not a decision that was about Ralph Hamers saying, I cannot execute this deal, I'd rather not be involved. It sounds like an announcement that was largely framed around the idea that the chairman, Colm Kelleher, the FINMA regulator, the Swiss government perceived Sergio Ermotti as a more appropriate individual for taking this business forward. Now, what I think has been interesting since the announcement, which was not leaked, unusually for this kind of story, there was no pre-flagging in favoured media about what was going to happen here. So congratulations to all of them for keeping a lid on this before the announcement was made, because it did truly come as a market shock here. But what I think subsequently I'm seeing now is a lot of speculation as to whether this now means that UBS employees should be more nervous about their positions than Credit Suisse employees in certain business lines, namely the investment bank, and whether this will ultimately be a truly performance-related weeding out process now that won't necessarily mean that the Credit Suisse bankers lose their job, the UBS bankers keep theirs. It may mean actually that there's quite a lot of focus on performance by individuals, and that UBS bankers at this point also do need to be concerned about what's ahead for them.
Certainly it does raise a lot of questions. I think your point about whether or not it was Mr. Hamers' decision is a very good one, because that did come throughout the press conference, and also done in a very gracious manner as well. One of the journalists in the press conference actually did ask the chairman at what point Mr. Ermotti found out that he was being put up for this role, and he said that he received a call the Monday after the deal was put together. So last Monday. I thought that was interesting. But to your point about what this means for the combined entity, for what the shape of this future bank is going to look like, again, they reiterated exactly what the chairman said back at that Sunday press conference, and that they do intend on keeping the investment bank smaller, and they will continue along the path of what Sergio Ermotti did with UBS, and that they will continue to focus on their asset and wealth management businesses at the expense of the investment bank. RWA assets no more than 25% of that combined entity. So there are going to be a lot of very difficult decisions that have to be made, and perhaps they deemed Mr. Ermotti to be the appropriate person to do that, given his history of doing that at UBS over his 9 years tenure there.
And yet, never miss an opportunity to take advantage of a crisis. So this now puts UBS into serious scale when it comes to private banking and wealth management. We know that. But maybe this also gives the Swiss another opportunity to have a go at private banking. And I understand absolutely what you're saying about we're going to be asset light as a business going forward and so forth. But I recall last week that there were some questions around what will happen with Michael Klein and the arrangement to effectively spin off that business into Credit Suisse First Boston. And I don't think there's been a resolution yet. And I also think there were some comments from Colm Kelleher that suggested that that deal needs another look at, because it may not be appropriate for how they want to think about the investment bank going forward. So all of a sudden you've got a business that has serious scale and the ability to perhaps take on the Americans finally, a European challenger if you like, in basic investment banking and markets management. And that would be extraordinary and perhaps something as Europeans that we might celebrate. But obviously the ink is still not dry on this deal. So what exactly does Colm Kelleher, who is a Morgan Stanley veteran of banking, investment banking, what exactly does he want to see out of this new UBS?
Also should be said that for a long time, Ermotti worked alongside Axel Weber, who was chairman at the time, and now he's going to be working alongside Kelleher. We don't know how that dynamic is going to play out either. One final point I think that is also worth mentioning is the political backlash. And again, in this press conference, the trio did receive some questions about what the political climate suggests about the future of this deal. And there are elections coming up in Switzerland later this year. The public opinion has been one of a lot of anger directed at Credit Suisse management about the way this deal was conducted, the losses, the write-downs, all of that. And you've got to wonder whether or not the combined entity can emerge out of this in a stronger position and actually regain its status as the crown jewel of the Swiss financial system, or whether it's going to be one of those lingering stories that will forevermore taint the Swiss financial center as we know it.
Yeah, it's been a tough old 30 decades, hasn't it, as far as the Swiss banking story is concerned, because those of us who have a little bit of grey hair, Joumanna, can remember back to SBC UBS in 1998 and ultimately how that deal was born of failure. And here we have another deal in the Swiss banking space that's born of failure after UBS almost itself failed after the 2008 financial crisis. So we've had a succession of very difficult birthing periods for new organizations in Switzerland, and this is going to be another one. And as you point out, the political dimension perhaps doesn't get enough international coverage. We focus on the banking, but we don't look so much at the anger that you can feel palpably on the ground in Zurich, and you were there after I was there, and people come up to you in the street and express their outrage about what they feel has been done and how worried they are about where their money is going. And are we heading into a world where banks only get bigger because of failures? I think we were told that that's something we need to be moving away from after the financial crisis of 2008. We do not want more concentration of risk in the banking sector.
So from too big to fail to too big to bail. Geoff.
Like it.
Hi, I'm Joumanna Bercetche, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.